There have been many unanswered questions regarding Undertale and Deltarune. Who is Sans? What are the Darkners? What is the Angel's Heaven? The answers to these questions have been in front of our face this entire time. Welcome to my greatest theory I've made so far, the Deltarune Color Theory. This theory was originally meant to be in two separate theories, but there is a strange overlap between these two theories that it should be recognized as one giant theory. For simplicity's sake, this video will be made into multiple parts, set inside of two different topics. Don't get me wrong though, despite there being two different topics in this video, it is very much under the same theory. Make sure to subscribe and like. Now, enjoy the video. Sans has been one of the greatest mysteries in the Undertale franchise ever since the game first launched. He is one of the first characters you meet in Undertale, and he even goes with you throughout your playthrough in True Pacifist. During your time of running around the underground with him, you begin to notice a couple of odd things about the character. One is that he seems to have the knowledge of the save and load feature, but he doesn't possess the power of harnessing it. Overall, going over a bunch of Sans information will probably take up the rest of this video, so I'll save that for another time. But there is information that I want everyone to pay attention to. Firstly, Sans' ability to teleport. We've seen this multiple times throughout Undertale, with his ability to even take other people with him. If you've played Undertale, you know his ability to teleport is definitely the thing that sticks out about him the most. Many players throughout the years have been trying to determine what gives Sans the ability to teleport, but after you watch this video, I think you'll agree that we may have found an answer. Before we get into that, another thing most notable about Sans is his battle in Genocide. Many people love a lot of aspects about this battle, such as the Megalovania song that plays in the background, or the fact that it's one of the toughest challenges somebody could face and will probably take hours of grinding for a casual player to get through it. But I'm not worried about that stuff. I'm more worried about his ability to dodge attacks. Sans is the only character in the entire game of Undertale that has this ability. He completely breezes over it in his battle and acts like it's a completely normal thing. One more thing about his battle is that he can bleed. For those that played Undertale, you'll know that monsters don't actually have blood, so it doesn't make sense if Sans was a monster for him to bleed. But if Sans isn't a monster, then what exactly is he? I'm going to show you a series of 4 clips of Lancer from Deltarune Chapter 1. I want you to see if you can understand what is happening in these clips, and what is common among them. Did you catch it? In the first 2 clips I showed, if you paid attention to Lancer's movement, you'll notice that something's unusual about it. Although most Deltarune players seem to have this breeze by them on their first playthroughs of this game. In these clips, Lancer is actually teleporting from location to location. In the bake sale clip, Lancer goes off to the right of the screen and appears on the left side. In the maze, Lancer takes the wrong path, but ends up ahead of you regardless. I find it funny how most people breeze by these moments of Lancer teleporting in Deltarune, but when Sans does it in Undertale, it's one of the most notable things. Now, of course, you could say that Susie was also teleporting in these scenes. So does that mean this could have just been a gag by Toby and it meant nothing? Keep in mind, teleporting in Undertale was one of the biggest things in the game. It's a unique ability that seems to have only been present in certain parts of the game, especially through Sans. So having Lancer use teleportation like it's nothing seems to be implying something greater. Friendly reminder that Sans took you to Grillby's along with him, which confirms that people who have this teleportation ability can bring others along with them. So, just like how Sans can teleport with you in Undertale, Lancer can teleport with Susie in Deltarune. In the next clip I showcase, it looked like a simple battle scene in Deltarune. Well, if you play through Deltarune Chapter 1, you'll know about this section of the story where Susie makes her own decisions and starts fighting on her own. The only way to avoid enemies getting hurt by Susie is to warn enemies beforehand. When an enemy is warned, they can dodge Susie's attacks. Now, of course, you're predicting in your head now that I'm going to relate this back to Sans dodging attacks, which of course I am, but you may be upset by it. Considering in Undertale there was no need for this warning system to begin with. Having an enemy dodge attacks can easily just be a coincidence to Sans also having the ability to dodge. However, there is one place in Deltarune where you do battle Susie and Lancer at the same time. In this battle, Lancer has the ability to dodge attacks you throw at him. On the other hand, Susie does not have this ability, which means that this coincidence may not actually be a coincidence after all. Now, the final clip I showed you is a little bit of a stretch, but I feel like this clip could easily be foreshadowing something. In Undertale, there was lore established that monsters are not made up of blood like humans, which means that when a monster dies, they turn to dust. At the end of Sans' battle in Undertale Genocide, Sans starts bleeding anyway. This moment could easily bring into light as to who Sans actually is. In the scene I showed you in Deltarune, Lancer brings out a bucket to start collecting your blood in. Lancer is referring to Kris, Susie, and Ralsei here. However, if the Undertale lore established before is consistent here, Kris would be the only one here that would be able to bleed. Maybe Ralsei too, but I think that's another theory for another time. When Lancer brings out the bucket to collect blood in, it doesn't make sense. There wouldn't be very much blood to collect if Susie isn't made up of blood in the first place. Lancer brings out this bucket because he doesn't know that Susie isn't made out of blood, which implies that Lancer doesn't know about how monsters turn to dust, and so perhaps this means that Lancer is made up of blood as well. In Deltarune, enemies will always flee upon defeating them, while in Undertale they will turn to dust. This could imply that perhaps Deltarune is hiding something about what happens when enemies die out. The enemies here don't turn to dust because they aren't monsters, and they in fact run away to hide the fact that they bleed. Putting this all together, a lot of answers are starting to show up regarding Sans. Now, Lancer isn't the only example to be used here in these similarities. In fact, it's present in every single Darkner in Deltarune. In fact, if you paid attention, almost every Darkner that you face prior to entering King's Castle appears in King's Castle before you, despite you passing them ages ago and you never once see them pass you. Every Darkner has the ability to dodge attacks and teleport, abilities that were extremely rare in the story of Undertale. In fact, this remains consistent throughout Deltarune Chapter 2 as well, although it's less noticeable, but even Queen has the ability to teleport. Teleportation is an ability that is strictly for Darkners. We've never seen a Lightner in Deltarune be able to teleport outside of Susie, which she can only teleport when she is with Lancer, just like how you can only teleport when you're with Sans. So could this mean that Sans is a Darkner? I mean, we've established that Sans isn't a monster because he can bleed, so what else could Sans be? White, black, and blue. That is Sans' character design. A white skeleton with black eyes and a blue jacket. When Undertale players think of the colors white, black, and blue, they think of Sans almost immediately. That's because Sans' design is so recognizable, changing the way that Sans looks just wouldn't make that character anymore. However, there are other characters in the Undertale canon that are the colors of white, black, and blue. Lancer, King, and Queen. These three are the main people you face off against in both Deltarune Chapter 1 and in Chapter 2. Each follows the same color design of Sans. Now, of course, every Darkner isn't white, black, and blue, but the main ones you go up against in the Deltarune story, in fact, is. They all have the same color combination of Sans. They all can teleport, they all can dodge attacks, and they all can bleed. I think that this could lead up to something big in the future. Perhaps this is the answer. Perhaps this is what Sans actually is. Just a Darkner. Whenever a Darkner speaks, their face isn't black and white like how Lightners are. This has remained consistent throughout Chapter 2 as well. Now, most people don't actually know what this could imply, but if every Darkner speaks in their own respective colors, and if Sans is a Darkner, how come his face isn't colored in the dialogue box? Well, it all has to do with Sans' design. His face isn't colored at all. it's just white and black, which fits how Undertale has always worked. Which means that no matter what Sans will do, he will always speak in white and black because that's how his color design is. Now of course in the Undertale battle system, he is in black and white despite wearing a blue jacket. Now we've never actually seen canonically a Darkner that isn't Sans in the Undertale battle system, so perhaps this is just how the Undertale battle system works. I mean, in the Deltarune battle system, Kris and Susie don't turn white and black, so if the Deltarune battle system remains consistent with Kris and Susie being colored, perhaps Undertale remaining consistent with making everything white and black would also make sense. Color coincidences aren't actually that much of a coincidence at all in Deltarune, as we've established earlier with Sans. When Toby makes colors in this game series, it has to mean something of significance. Throughout the story of Deltarune, there has been a repeat mention of something called the Angel's Heaven. Now of course not much is known about the Angel's Heaven as of right now. Just like the Titans, there isn't really much information about what the Angel's Heaven is, or what the purpose of it is. So I'm going to draw a conclusion here that could lead us down the right path. I want you to look at this emblem in particular right here. This emblem has appeared in numerous locations throughout not just Deltarune but in Undertale too. I mean, come on, this emblem is literally on Azrael in the final battle of True Pacifists, so this emblem has got to mean something. Based on the information that's implied here, we kinda know what this emblem actually means. It represents the story of Delta Rune, as mentioned by Gerson. The winged sphere at the top here is supposed to represent the Angel's Heaven. The three triangles at the bottom are supposed to represent the three heroes sealing the Angel's Heaven. This is taken directly from Ralsei's tale at the beginning of Deltarune Chapter 1. The three heroes are meant to banish the Angel's Heaven, but what exactly is the Angel's Heaven in the first place? Well, for that, we'll need to look at a specific place as to where this emblem is. In Kris's bedroom in the Dark World. In Kris's bedroom, you can find a carpet with the Deltarune emblem on it, and it matches up perfectly with what I said earlier. The pink triangle represents Susie, the blue triangle represents Kris, and the green triangle represents Ralsei. The colors on the carpet line up perfectly with our colors in the prophecy that Ralsei told us at the beginning of Chapter 1. However, at the top of the emblem is supposed to represent the Angel's Heaven. Now the Angel's Heaven here is actually the color white. There are now a total of 3 members that have appeared in Kris's party as of Deltarune Chapter 2. Susie, Ralsei, and Noelle. Now Noelle's color design here is actually white, just like the carpet in Kris's bedroom that holds the Deltarune emblem. In Noelle's date with Susie, she mentions how she wants to gain angel wings to fly. In the hospital, you can find an angel doll with no face. So does this mean that Noelle could be the Angel's Heaven? Thanks for watching, and check out this playlist of all my Undertale theories.